Hello, Ghost. This
Hey
is
guys,
Homie,
and this is Greg. Oh, Joji.
and we're gonna read some stories, so I hope you're ready.
Yeah, better be ready. The epic Dino rap battle. A rocky prehistoric landscape with towering ferns and the distant roars of dinosaurs echoing through the air. A group of three cavemen, Ghost, George, and Hermie, stand in a circle, glaring at each other. Ghost, with her sharp eyes and smarmy grin, stands with her arms crossed. George, a giggly trickster with a sneaky look, leans back, chuckling softly. Homie, a laid-back guy with a big jiggly belly, scratches his head, his stomach rumbling audibly. The argument has been brewing for hours. Who among them is the most aggressive? Tired of the back and forth, they decided there's only one way to settle it.
All right, boys, enough talk. It's time to put your grunts where your mouth is, Dino style.
I'm down. Get ready to get school cave style.
Yeah. But first, can we get some mammoth ribs up in here? Battling on an empty stomach ain't fair. Focus, homie. Let's do this.
The three form a circle, stomping their feet to create a beat. The dinosaurs in the background seems to groove along, bobbing their heads. Round one. Ghost is first. Ghost steps into the center, throwing her hands up, her voice echoing through the prehistoric plains.
Y'all think you're tough, but y'all a bunch of dweebs. I'm the queen of this jungle. I'm planting my seeds. Got a brain like a dino and roar like a raptor. When I drop these rhymes, y'all can't get out faster. I'm the meanest, the leanest. Don't you even try. Y'all run from my roar while I reach for the sky.
The, the ground seems to shake as she finishes, her eyes burning with confidence. George cackles, rubbing his hands together, ready to jump in. Round two. George is first. George hops to the center, his sneaky grin wide as he starts his rap with a belly shaking chuckle. Every, every. Ghost think she's scary, but she all talk. When I roll up down a squake and the caveman gawk. I'm the trickster king with a mind so sly. I can steal your meal and you'll never know why. You think you're smart, but I'm laughing inside. My sneak attack a feast like a T-Rex try. Every. He ends his verse with a high-pitched, contagious laugh that even makes a neighbor pterodactyl chuckle. Homie, still rubbing his belly, step up with a lazy grin. Round three. Homie's is first. Homie, with his laid-back swagger, ambles to the center, rubbing his big jiggly belly with pride.
Y'all can bicker, but y'all missing the point. Aggression ain't the game. It's all about the joint. Got a belly so big, it's my secret weapon. Shake it once or twice, y'all be steppin'. You wanna fight? Nah, I just wanna eat. With a meal in my hand, y'all can't compete.
Homie finishes with a satisfied belly rub, and the ground trembles. Not from his furs, but from a herd of nearby dinos busting out some dance moves, clearly grooving to Homie's laid back beat. The three cavemen stare each other down, waiting for someone to declare a winner. But before they can continue their argument, a gigantic roar from T Rex interrupts them. The three cavemen glance at each other and then back at the roaring dinosaur.
Yeah, maybe we all got something to prove, but let's not forget what's important here.
Yeah, like getting away from a dino dinner.
Agreed. But after that, we're definitely grabbing those mammoth ribs.
With that, the three friends bolt off, laughing and hollering. The debate about who's the most aggressive left unanswered, but the bond between them stronger than ever. The end. That is so funny.
The Toads Trio's mischievous lesson. Deep within the heart of the enchanted swamp, where the air is thick with the mist and the trees are draped with moss, live three peculiar toads. They were no ordinary toads, mind you. Ghost, George, and Homie were the trickiest, slimiest, and the most mischievous toads in the entire marsh.
Ghost was a clever toad with a knack for making plans. Her skin was a shimmering shade of green with a streak of silver down her back, and she had piercing gaze that could spot a tasty fly from a mile away. She loved to boast that she was the smartest of the trio and always the one to come up with the best tricks.
George was a sneaky toad with a laugh that was as infectious as it was irritating. He was smaller than Ghost, with a slick, dark green skin that glistened like oil in the sun. He always had a plan up his slimy sleeve and a mischievous twinkle in his eye. George had a way of getting others into trouble while hopping away scot free.
Seriously, I'm smaller than Ghost. I guess that could be true. But anyway, Homie was the laziest and hungriest of them all. His large round body was covered in a bumpy pale green skin, and his belly was always jiggling. What? Mhm. He liked to lounge in the mud, dreaming of all the flies he would catch if only he weren't so relaxed. Despite his laid-back nature, Homie was always up for a bit of fun, especially if it involved food.
One day, as the trio lounged on their favorite lily pad, Ghost had an idea.
Hmm, we're pranking. We've been okay, sorry. Okay. We've been bringing the other swamp critters for ages. Ghost croaked, her eyes gleaming with new spark. But what if we set our sights on something a bit more royal?
George perked up, his wide mouth curling into a grin. You mean the princesses? Those fancy human gals who stroll by the swamp thinking they're all that?
Homie yawned, his big belly wobbling. Oh, yeah, but what's in it for us? Unless you're talking about snacks, I'm staying right here.
Ghost smirked. Oh, there'll be snacks, all right. And fun. Imagine the princesses doing whatever we want. Fetching us flies, bringing us sweet honey cakes, maybe even a mud spa day.
That's something like Ghost would say. The trio cackled at the thought. The plan was set, and they hopped off to their secret hideout, ready to put their trickery to the test.
The mischief begins. The next day, the three toads positioned themselves near the edge of the swamp, where the path of cobblestone wound its way through the mist. Soon enough, the air was filled with the scent of perfume and the sound of dainty footsteps. Three princesses were making their way down the path, their gowns shimmering in the sunlight that filtered through the trees.
Ghost was the first to spring into action. She hopped in front of the princesses, pretending to be helpless little toad in distress. She wobbled her legs and let out a pitiful croak. Rub up, rub up.
Oh, poor little toad, said the first princess, kneeling down. What's wrong, little one?
Ghost croak again. Rub up, tilting her head towards the water. I lost my precious stone in the swamp. Could you help me find it? Rub up. It's my only treasure. Rub up.
The princesses, kind-hearted and always ready to help, agreed. But as soon as they stepped closer to the water, George leapt out with a splash, sending muddy water all over their beautiful dresses. George couldn't help but snicker, his laughter echoing across the swamp.
Rab, 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 rab. Oops. Rab, 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 rab. Sorry, didn't see you there. Rab, 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 rab. George croaked, feigning innocence.
The princesses shrieked and tried to step back, but before they could, Homie hopped over and blocked their path, a wide grin spreading across his face. Oh no! Looks like you got mud all over. Maybe you should join us in the swamp to wash it off, yeah?
The princesses glared at the three toads, but their hearts were soft. They decided to play along and wade into the shallow water to find Ghost's lost stone.
For days, the trio continued their antics. They convinced the princesses to catch flies, perform silly dances, and even have a swamp tea party where the tea was swamp water with tadpoles. The toads cackled with glee as they tricked the princesses over and over again, enjoying every minute of it.
A change of heart. But soon the fun started to wear off. One day, as the three toads lounged on their lily pad, Ghost noticed something different. The princesses, who had been so eager to help at first, now walked along the path with downcast eyes. They no longer sang songs or picked flowers. Their smiles were gone, replaced by tired frowns.
Ghost frowned, her smirk fading. Hey, you guys notice something? The princesses don't seem so happy anymore.
George stopped chuckling for a moment, his eyes narrowing. Rabbit? Yeah, they look kinda rabbit bum out. Rabbit, that's no fun. Rabbit.
Homie let out a big sigh, his belly heaving. Maybe we went too far with all the tricks. I thought it was funny at first, but now I kind of miss their singing.
Ghost, being the smartest of the three, realized they had crossed the line. All right, Rabbit, Rabbit. Maybe we should make it right, Rabbit. It's one of the things to have fun, but it's another thing to make them feel bad. Rabbit.
The other two nodded, and together they devised a plan to apologize.
A toady apology. The next day, when the princesses came by the swamp again, Ghost, George, and Homie hopped out to meet them, their heads bowed low.
Princesses, Ghost began, her voice humble. We're so sorry for all the tricks and pranks. We just wanted to have some fun, but we didn't mean to make you feel bad.
George nodded, rubbing the back of his head. Ribbit, ribbit. Yeah, yeah. No more mud splashes or buck catching contest. Promise, ribbit.
Homie let out a deep croak, his belly jiggling with each word.
Do the croak, do the croak.
Ribbit. And if it was any consolation, I saved you some of my best flies, as a peace offering.
The princesses looked at each other, their frowns slowly melting away. They could see that the toads truly felt sorry. They giggled softly, realizing how ridiculous the whole thing had been.
Well, said the first princess with a smile, we suppose everyone deserves a second chance, but no more tricks, all right?
The toads agreed, nodding enthusiastically. From that day on, they decided to play fair. Instead of tricking the princesses, they taught them how to hop across lily pads, and in return, the princesses sang songs and shared stories of the world beyond the swamp.
The three toads learned that while a little fun was great, it was even better when everyone could enjoy it. And every now and then, when they heard the princesses laughing, they knew they'd made the right choice. The end.
Yeah.
The great fiber fiasco. In the bustling little town surrounded by green hills and babbling brooks, three friends named Ghost, George, and Homie found themselves in a most uncomfortable predicament. Unlike most days when their antics involved trickery, pranks, or lazing about, today was a day of desperation and perhaps a lesson in moderation.
Ghost, the sharp-witted leader with an attitude to match her quick thinking, had convinced her friends to go on a grand adventure to find the best snack in town. She was never one to back down from a challenge or an opportunity to prove she was right.
George, with his infectious laugh and sneaky demeanor, had his doubts about Ghost's latest plan, but decided to tag along anyway. Mischief was in his blood, and he figured he could turn anything into a bit of fun.
Homie, the laid-back guy with the big belly and an even bigger appetite, was only there for one reason: snacks, of course. His belly was a bottomless His belly was a bottomless pit, and he prided himself on being able to eat anything. Or so he thought.
As they walked through the town, they stumbled upon a small shop selling snacks of all kinds. Inside, they found a shelf lined with Fiber One bars and shiny wrappers boasting of delicious flavors and healthy benefits. Ghost never wanted to miss an opportunity for something healthy. She grinned.
Ghost smirked, grabbing a box of bars. I've heard these are supposed to be great for digestion. And besides, there's a challenge online. It's a whole box in one go. Who's in?
George chuckled. I'm always up for a challenge, but you better not chicken out, Ghost.
Homie shrugged, already imagining the flavors bursting in his mouth. Mmm, food is food, right? Let's get munching.
And so, without a second thought, each of them grabbed a box and started chomping down one bar after another. At first, they enjoyed the taste chewy, slightly sweet, and filled with a little bits of goodness. They laughed and joked as they devoured bar after bar, feeling triumphant.
But that feeling of triumph was short lived.
The trouble begins. After about 20 minutes, as they continued their walk through the town, something strange started to happen. Ghost's confidence stride slowed to a crawl, her hand resting uneasy on her stomach. George, usually bouncing with energy, began to waddle, his face scrunched in discomfort. Homie, who had been humming to himself, suddenly stopped and clutched his belly, his eyes wide.
Ghost was the first to speak up, though her voice came out in a strained whisper. I I think we might have made a mistake. I'm feeling a little rumbly.
George nodded, his mischievous grin replaced by a look of concern. Yeah, same here. It feels like there's a storm brewing in my gut.
Homie groaned loudly, his big belly trembling. Guys, I think I'm gonna explode. We need to find a bathroom. And fast.
And so the great race for the restroom began.
The quest for relief. The trio took off in different directions, each determined to find the nearest restroom before it was too late. The first stop was a small cafe just down the street. Ghost, being the quickest, darted ahead and burst through the door. But to her dismay, there was a line, a long line.
Ghost groaned internally, her face pale as she squeezed her legs together. She couldn't wait that long. Thinking quickly, she tried to bribe the next person in front of the line. Hey, buddy, I'll give you $5 if you let me go next.
The person glanced at her with a raised eyebrow. Hmm, make it 20.
Ghost reluctantly handed over the money. But just as she was about to step in, George burst through the door, panting.
Nice try, Ghost. I've got a better idea. He tapped the barista on the shoulder. Hey, can I get a super special secret espresso shot? Extra fast, please.
The barista, slightly confused, shrugged and started making a drink. While everyone was distracted, George sneaked past the line and reached for the bathroom door handle, only to find it locked.
Meanwhile, Homie waddled up behind them, sweating profusely. Oh, oh. That's how you would sound, right? Guys, forget this. There's gotta be a better spot.
With no time to lose, the trio dashed out of the cafe running, or waddling, towards the park in the center of town. The park had a public restroom, and they knew it was their best shot.
But the journey was not without obstacles.
The Park of Perils. The closer they got to the park, the more their stomachs groaned and gurgled, making noises that could frighten away even the boldest of birds. Ghost, usually composed, was now muttering under her breath, urging her legs to move faster. George, typically the jokester, had no laughter left in him, only a look of sheer determination. And Homie, poor Homie, was whimpering with each step, his usual jolly belly feeling like a cauldron about to boil over.
As they rounded the corner, they could see the park's restroom inside. But there was a catch. An ice cream truck had parked right in front of it, and a crowd of children was swarming around it, blocking their way.
Ghost bit her lip. All right, we need to distract them. Fast.
George grinned despite the discomfort. Huh, leave it to me. He hobbled over the truck and began shouting, free ice cream! Free ice cream! Over by the fountain!
The kids turned their heads, and in an instant they were sprinting towards the fountain, eager for a chance at more treats. George gave a weak thumbs up to Ghost and Homie.
Nice work! I'm sorry, that was the wrong voice. Nice work, George! Ghost shouted as they make a break for the restroom. But just as they were about to reach the door, a park ranger stepped in front of them, arms crossed.
Sorry, folks. We're doing some maintenance. You'll have to find another restroom.
Homie let out a desperate moan. His face fell. Oh, no, 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 no. There's got to be another way.
Ghost spotted a row of bushes not too far away.
Oh
All
no.
right, it's every person for themselves now, she declared, sprinting towards the bushes.
This is a terrible idea. George, not to be outdone, darted off in another direction, trying to find a hidden corner behind a tree. And Homie, tears in his eyes, stumbled off in yet another direction, looking for any shreds of privacy.
The lesson learned. After what felt like an eternity, the trio finally emerged, each looking a little worse for wear, but undeniably relieved. They met back in their original spot, panting and still clutching their bellies.
Ghost was the first to speak. All right, new rule. Never eat an entire box of fiber one bus. Ever.
George nodded, still looking a bit green. Yeah, I think we learned our lessons there.
Homie sat down on the grass, his jiggly belly noticeably less jiggly. I think I'm gonna stick to the regular snacks from now on. That was a bit much.
The three friends looked at each other and burst into laughter, each realizing how ridiculous the whole ordeal had been. They lay back on the grass, staring up at the sky. They decided that sometimes even the simplest adventures could be the most memorable, especially when they involve snacks, friends, in a race against nature. The end.
The Oh my god. That was about the Caveman Conundrum. One sunny afternoon, in a small village nestled between the mountains and the forest, three friends were enjoying a quiet day out. Ghost, the sharp and clever leader with a bit of an attitude, was sitting by the fountain, flipping through an old spellbook she'd found in the town's dusty library. Beside her sat Homie, a laid-back foodie with a big belly, munching on a sandwich and watching the world go by. And then there was George, the sneaky trickster with contagious laugh, leaning over Ghost's shoulders to peek at the book.
What's this one say? George asked, snickering. He was always up for a bit of fun, especially when it involved magic.
Ghost, always the skeptical one, raised an eyebrow. "Hmm, it's an old book of spells and curses. Most of it looks like nonsense, but some of these could be pretty powerful. Look at this one. It's called the Ancient Way. Sounds kind of spooky."
George laughed. Spooky. Sounds like a challenge to me. Before anyone could stop him, he pointed his finger at the page and shouted, Crathunkara!
The air around them shivered for a moment, and a strange breeze swept through the square. Ghost and Homie looked at each other wide-eyed.
Ghost smacked him on the back of the head. Are you crazy? You can't just go around shouting random spells, George.
George shrugged. Ah, what's the worst that could...
Suddenly, George's sentence was cut short. His words turned into a low, guttural grunt. What's a uh.
Ghost and Homie stared at him. George's usual slight grin was replaced by a confused, almost dazed look. His posture shifted, his shoulders hunching forward.
George? Asked, a hint of concern in her voice. Are you all right?
Uh, George, no, feel so good, he muttered, scratching his head.
Omi chuckled. All right, George, cut it out. You're not fooling anyone with that caveman act.
But it wasn't an act. George's eyes grew wild, and his speech became more primitive by the second. George, hungry, need food. He, he reached out, trying to grab Homie's sandwich, but Homie quickly pulled it away.
Oh boy, Ghost said, flipping frantically through the spell book. That spell must have been some kind of caveman curse. If we don't figure out how to reverse it, George might go full caveman on us.
Homie looked at George, who was now scratching his head and grunting louder. Well, we better figure out fast. I don't want to end up being his lunch.
The quest for a cure. Ghost scanned the pages of the old spell book, her eyes darting across the ancient text. Okay. There's gotta be something in here. A counterspell, a potion, something.
You know, this is just a story, right? You're not actually cursed. For a second, but I thought you were actually cursed. Meanwhile, George was getting more and more restless. He had picked up a stick and was now poking it at random things, muttering under his breath. Stick, good, smash, big rock. He started bash stick against a rock, his grunts growing louder.
All right, we definitely don't want that escalating, Ghost muttered. Homie, keep him occupied while I try to figure this out.
Homie looked at George, who was now stomping around like he was about to discover fire for the first time. Hey George, how about a game, huh? Bet you can't catch me. Homie started running in circles around the fountain.
George's eyes lit up with a simple primal joy. Catch! George, catch! He dropped his stick and began lumbering after Homie, who zigzagged to keep away.
Ghost continued to flip through the book. Come on, come on. There's gotta be something. Wait, there it is! To reverse the ancient way, one must find the three ingredients: the dew of the new dawn, the feathers of the wise crow, and the root of the forgotten tree.
Homie, still evading a now caveman like George, called out, "Dew, feather, root, got it. But where do we find those?"
Ghost looked around, thinking quickly. Hmm. All right, the dew of the new dawn can be found on the petals of sunflowers at the east end of the village. The wise crow's feather, hmm, that'll be trickier. Crows are usually up in the old oak forest. And the root of the forgotten tree, hmm, there's an ancient gnarled tree at the top of the hill near the cliffs.
George, still chasing Homie, suddenly stopped and sniffed the air. George, smell flowers!
Oh, looks like Caveman George is leading the way, Ghost said. Come on, let's follow him to the sunflowers.
The search for the dew. The trio headed towards the eastern fields, where a patch of tall sunflowers stood. George, still grunting and sniffing, seemed to be instinctively drawn to them. As they reached the field, Ghost spotted a delicate morning dew clinging to the petal of the sunflowers.
Quick, homie, get a vial or something, Ghost urged.
Homie fumbled through his bag and pulled out an empty water bottle. This should do the trick. He carefully collected some of the dew, making sure not to spill a drop. Got it.
But before they could celebrate, George began gnawing on a sunflower stem. George, eat big flowers.
Hey, no eating the ingredients, Ghost scolded, pulling George away.
The wise crow's feather. With the dew safely in hand, the group made their way to the old oak forest where the crows were known to nest. As they crept through the dense woods, they spotted a large crow perched on a high branch. Its feathers gleamed with an almost magical sheen.
That must be the wise crow, Ghost whispered. We need to get a feather from it.
Homie scratched his head. How do we do that without scaring it off?
Before they could come up with a plan, George, in his caveman state, decided to take matters into his own hands, or rather, his own rocks. George, throw rock, he declared, picking up a pebble and winding up.
No, George, wait! Ghost yelled, but it was too late.
George hurled the pebble, and it missed the crow by a mile. But the crows, curious rather than frightened, called loudly and flew down to a lower branch, almost taunting them.
Ghost quickly grabbed a piece of bread from Homie's back. All right, let's do this a smart way. Here, buddy. Shoo, 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 shoo. Have some bread. She tossed it up gently.
The crow hopped down and began to peck at the bread. As it did, it left behind a shiny black feather. Homie quickly grabbed it. Feather, check.
George, however, was still waving his arms and grunting at the bird. Bird? George? Friend?
Let's not stick around to find out if the birds feel the same way, Ghost said, pulling them along.
The root of the forgotten tree. The last item on the list was the root of the forgotten tree, high up on a hill near the cliffs. By now, George was almost entirely caveman, his speech reduced to monosyllabic grunts and his movements more erratic. Time was running out.
As they climbed the steep hill, they saw it. The ancient gnarled tree with its twisted branches reaching out like skeletal fingers. Ghost spotted a protruding root sticking out of its rocky soil.
There it is, she said. But how do we get it from. But how do we get it without hurting the tree?
George, however, seemed to know exactly what to do. He knelt down by the root and began digging with his hands, almost like he was connecting with his inner caveman gardener. Surprisingly, he gently unearthed a small piece of root without damaging the tree.
Well, would you look at that? Homie said. Seems like Caveman George is good for something after all.
Ghost didn't waste a second. Quick, let's mix these ingredients together.
The cure and the comeback. Ghost combined the dew of the new dawn, the feather of the wise crow, and the root of the forgotten tree in a small bowl she'd brought along. The mixture began to bubble and shimmer with a faint golden light.
All right, drink up, George, Ghost said, holding the bowl out to him.
George stared at it suspiciously, his caveman instinct on high alert. George, no trust, shiny drink.
Oh, for the love of. Here, I'll drink it too. Ghost took small sips and made a face. See, not poisonous.
Reluctantly, George took the bowl and gulped it down. For a moment, nothing happened. Then a brilliant light engulfed him, and he began to tremble. Slowly, his posture straightened, his eyes cleared, and the white look faded from his face.
What happened? George asked, rubbing his head.
Homie burst out laughing. Or, I don't know how to do that. Buddy, you went full caveman on us.
George's eyes widened. What? Really?
Ghost dragged, patting him on the back. Yeah, and you almost brained a wise crow with a rock. But don't worry, we fixed ya.
George chuckled sheepishly. Well, I guess I owe you guys one. No more random spell shouting from now on.
Good call, Ghost said with a grin. Now, how about we go get some normal snacks?
And with that, the three friends, now back to their regular selves, walked down the hill, laughing and joking, their friendship stronger than ever. The end. Homie, Ghost, and Greg's wild river adventure. In a peaceful, lush jungle, three unlikely friends were planning a grand adventure. There was Homie, the crocodile, who was known for his massive jaws and infamous death roll. Then there was Ghost, a tiny but feisty white kitten with a love for anything that moved. And finally, there was Greg, a clever little frog with a knack for getting into and out of trouble.
One sunny morning, Ghost excitedly declared, Let's go on an adventure down the river. I've heard there's a place where fish jump right into your mouth.
Homie, lounging lazily on the riverbank, perked up. Fish, you say? That sounds like my kind of place.
Greg, always up for a challenge, croaked. Rabbit, rabbit. And I bet I can catch more fish than both of you combined.
And so the three friends set off down the river. Ghost hopped onto Homie's broad back, while Greg perched on Ghost's head, giving them directions as they floated along.
I guess tinier than Ghost again in here for some reason. As they drifted down the river, they encountered a series of rapids. Hang on tight, Greg shouted. Before they knew it, a giant log came crashing towards them.
Without a second thought, Homie grinned and shouted, Time for a death roll! With a quick twist of his powerful body, he grabbed the log in his jaws and spun around like a top. Water splashed everywhere, soaking Ghost and Greg.
Homie, you crazy croc! Greg laughed as he clung tightly to Ghost, who was meowing with excitement.
When the spinning finally stopped, the log was shattered into tiny pieces, and Homie was grinning from ear to ear. Now that's how you clear the way, he said proudly.
As they continued their journey, they came across a group of mischievous otters who were playing a game of tag. Seeing the new arrivals, the otters invited them to join in. Ghost, always up for a challenge, immediately jumped off Homie's back and started chasing otters around.
Greg, on the other hand, decided to challenge the otters to a leaping contest. I bet I can jump farther than any of you, he boasted.
But just as Greg was about to show off his skills, one of the otters tickled his belly, causing him to jump so high he nearly landed in a tree. The otters, the, the otters giggled as Greg landed with a splash back in the water.
Looks like the otters got the best of you, Greg, Ghost teased as she playfully battled at the water. Or batted at the water, sorry.
After a fun-filled day of games, the sun began to set, and it was time to head home. As they floated on back the river, Homie spotted a school of fish swimming nearby.
Watch this, he said as he performed another death roll, sending the fish flying into the air. Ghost, quick as lightning, swiped at the fish with her paw, while Greg caught one in his mouth with perfect timing.
They all laughed as they floated back into the riverbank, their bellies full and their hearts happy. As the stars twinkled above them, they knew that this was an adventure they'd never forget.
And so, with tired eyes and big smiles, Homie, Ghost, and Greg curled up together under the night sky, dreaming of their next wild and hilarious adventure.
Thus ending the story of Homie, Ghost, and Greg's Wild River Adventure.
Yay!
Yeah.
Ian and Lily's tumbling adventure. In a cozy bamboo forest far away from civilization lived a clumsy panda named Ian. Ian was known far and wide for his big round belly and his spectacular funny falls. Whether he was attempting to climb a tree, reach for a bamboo shoot, or simply walk across the forest floor, Ian always managed to trip, slip, or tumble in the most comical ways.
One sunny morning, as Ian was rolling around in a playful tumble, he stumbled upon something unusual. A tiny stray kitten with fur as soft as a cloud and eyes as bright as stars. The kitten looked up at Ian with curious gaze.
Meow, the kitten said, her tiny tail twitching.
Ian, always wanted to share his misadventures with new friends, gently scooped up the kitten with his big fluffy paws. Well, hello there. My name is Ian. What's yours?
The kitten mewed. Mewed? Mewed softly.
Didn't you? Didn't you?
Ian thought for a moment and decided, I'll call you Lily. How about that?
From that day on, Lily and Ian were inseparable. Lily was small but full of energy and spunk. She would cling to Ian's back, bouncing along as Ian wobbled and tumbled through the forest. Despite Ian's frequent falls, Lily never let go, her tiny claws gripping onto Ian's fur with determination.
One day, while Ian was trying to balance on a rock to reach a particularly juicy bamboo shoot, he lost his footing and went tumbling down the hill. Lily, holding on tight, flew off with Ian's tumble, landing gracefully in a soft bed of leaves.
Whoa! Whoa! Ian exclaimed, rubbing his head. Did we just have an accidental skydive?
Lily meowed, looking slightly dizzy but happy. Meow!
As the days went by, Lily grew bigger and stronger. She began to take on the role of Ian's personal guardian, trying to prevent his frequent falls. She would scamper ahead to check for slippery spots or obstacles, and she even tried to gently push Ian away from dangerous areas.
However, despite Lily's best efforts, Ian remained as clumsy as ever. His tumbling seemed to only increase with time. Lily, though much more nimble, found herself struggling to keep Ian from falling, which only led to more funny mishaps.
One day, while Ian was attempting to walk through a field of daisy, he tripped over his own feet and fell face first into a puddle. Lily, desperate trying to help, tried to grab onto Ian's ear to pull him out. Instead, she ended up getting splashed with mud as Ian's flailing feet created a splash zone.
Oops, Ian said with a sheepish grin, his face covered in mud. Looks like I made a mess again.
Lily shook herself off. Her fur now splattered with mud, but she couldn't help but purr with a mix of exasperation and amusement. She climbed onto Ian's back, trying to clean him up with her tiny paws.
Despite the constant tumbles and muddy messes, Ian and Lily were the best of friends. They laughed together at their silly mishaps and enjoyed each other's company more than anything.
One evening, as the sun set and the sky turned pink, Ian tried to balance on a log to impress Lily with his amazing tightrope walking skills. As expected, he wobbled and fell, but this time Lily was ready. She jumped onto the log and caught him mid-fall with her tiny paws, gently guiding him back to the solid ground.
You did it, Ian cheered, rubbing his eyes in surprise. You caught me.
Lily meowed proudly, her tail flicking with satisfaction. Meow.
Ian hugged Lily tightly, his heart full of warmth. You know, Lily, even though I'm always falling, you make everything so much better. Thank you for sticking with me through all this, all the tumbles.
Lily purred, nuzzling Ian's cheek. Together, they walked home. Lily perched on Ian's back, guiding him as they went. The two friends knew that no matter how many times Ian tumbled, Lily would always be there to help him up and make every fall an adventure.
And so, in their cozy forest home, Ian and Lily lived happily ever after, proving that true friendship means sticking together even through the silliest of falls.
As they settled down for the night, Ian and Lily snuggled up, dreaming of their next silly adventure. And with a last gentle tumble from Ian as he rolled into his bed, they drifted off to sleep, ready for whatever fun the next day would bring.
Thus ending the heartwarming tale of Ian and Lily's tumbling adventure. The end.
The
Ish.
end. The Great Poopnado Picnic. Wait, sorry. That was totally gross. I meant the Great Poopnado Panic. That was so inappropriate. In a small quirky town called Chickenville, there lived three very different but equally lovable friends. There was Homie, a big guy with a full belly who loved eating chicken. Fried, grilled, roasted, you name it. Then there was Ghost, a super smart and curious little girl who was always reading books and inventing cool gadgets. And finally, there was Greg, a young guy with a mischievous grin and a knack for getting into all sorts of trouble.
One sunny afternoon, Homie was in his favorite spot, the chicken shack, munching on his 10th piece of fried chicken, while Ghost was busy tinkering with her latest invention, a high-tech kite that could fly on its own. Greg, as usual, was planning his next prank, which involved a giant whoopee cushion in the mayor's chair.
Just as Greg was about to set his plan into motion, the sky suddenly turned dark, and a strange rumbling noise filled the air. Ghost looked up from her gadget, her eyes wide with curiosity. Hmm, something weird is happening, she said, adjusting her glasses.
Greg, sensing an opportunity for some excitement, grinned. Maybe it's a UFO or a giant chicken.
But before anyone could speculate further, a gust of wind blew through the town, carrying with it an odd, unmistakable smell. Homie sniffed the air, his face crunching up. Ah, guys, why does anyone else smell that?
Ghost quickly pulled out her tablet and started scanning the skies. Her eyes widened and the results came in. Oh no, it's a poopnado!
A what? Greg laughed, thinking Ghost was joking.
A poopnado, Ghost repeated, showing them the screen. It's a tornado made entirely, well, out of poop. It's extremely rare, but it's real and it's headed straight for us.
Holmes' eye widened as he clenched his chicken bucket. But what about my chicken?
We need to act fast, Ghost said, already forming a plan in her brilliant mind. If we don't stop the poopnado, it'll cover the entire town in, you know.
Greg, seeing a chance for some adventure, smacked. I've got an idea. What if we lured it away from something super stinky?
Ghost thought for a moment. That could work. But what could be stinkier than a poopnado?
Holmes, still clutching his chicken, suddenly had an idea. What about old chicken grease? That stuff smells pretty bad.
Greg's eyes lit up. That's it. We'll use old grease from the chicken shack.
The three friends quickly sprang into action. Ghost rigged up a giant fan to blow the smell of the old grease towards the poopnado, while Homie and Greg gather up buckets of the stuff from the back of the chicken shack.
As the poopnado got closer, they could see it swirling in the sky like a giant brown tornado, causing a mix of panic and laughter in the town. Ghost flipped the switch on the fan, and soon the strong smell of old chicken grease filled the air, heading straight for the poopnado.
At first, nothing happened. The poopnado kept spinning towards them, but then it started to wobble as if it was confused. The smell of the grease was so strong that the poopnado began to change direction, slowly moving away from the town.
It's working! Ghost shouted triumphantly.
The poopnado, now completely disoriented by the powerful smell, finally spun off into the distance, disappearing over the horizon. The town was safe.
As the townspeople cheered and celebrated, Greg turned to Ghost with a grin. You really saved the day, Ghost. That was awesome.
Ghost smiled, blushing a little. It was a team effort. I mean, mostly me, but you know.
Omi, relieved that his chicken was safe, patted his full belly and chuckled. I guess old chicken grease isn't so bad after all.
What do you mean? It literally drove the poopnado away. What do you mean it's not bad after all? What the heck? And so, with the poopnado gone and the town back to normal, the three friends decided to celebrate with, you guessed it, more chicken. As they sat together, laughing and recounting their adventure, they knew that no matter what crazy disaster came their way, they'd always face it together.
Thus ending the story of the Great Poopnado Panic.